on out, we're moving right on up to Platinum League. It's SlappyDavis versus our own Cameraman.
My old nemesis, SlappyDavis, from one of the earliest tournaments we ever did. Yes, Slappy, an excellent player, Cameraman as well. And I've been saying the whole time that Platinum is just really, really even. There are no obvious standouts in Platinum. I say that even as a member of Platinum myself. I think anyone in that league can beat anyone else on a given day. And so this should be a very good match.
Well, let's see what happens on this day, as Cameraman bans High Rise, any 3 of 5. So we're not going to be seeing Softail High Rise again. SlappyDavis takes out Courtyard 1, any 4 of 6.
Word's getting around.
Spoiler alert, SlappyDavis does not want to play Courtyard 1. He also bans the other one.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of this. I think I did it against Cameraman in week 1 as well, just because he picked it against me late last season, and I figured, you know what? We have Cameraman and I actually like most maps pretty similarly. Neither of us particularly like Softail variants. We like to play a lot of the same ones. The only map that he likes that I don't is Courtyard 1, so I figured I'll ban them both. And I'm guessing Slappy took note of those bans.
I think Slappy said someone told him. Might have been you. Someone tipped him off.
I think I might have told him it was coming, although just a quick perusal of the replays on there might have told him as well. But it helps because, yeah, Slappy and I, neither Slappy or I prefer the Softail variants that much, and Cameraman doesn't either. So there's less reason than usual to let Courtyard exist there, because it's not like Cameraman is particularly likely to pick something that Slappy or I hate.
Either way, Cameraman decides to ban Double Modern Known 2. And as we get into the picks,
yeah, so
the first map, Panopticon, any 5 of 8. First time of the night, and oh man, this is a fun map to cast.
It absolutely is. Not such a fun map to snipe on sometimes, but very fun to cast.
SlappyDavis picks Courtyard 2, any 4 of 7, the bread and butter. Cameraman, New Art Veranda, any 5 of 8. So Cameraman picking the big maps. SlappyDavis, Gallery, any 4 of 8. So Gallery is going to be a fun one as well.
I don't think Slappy would normally pick that. He likes Gallery fine, but the reason he picked it is because Cameraman beat him to picking Veranda. Slappy loves Veranda. He'll pick it almost every time if you let him. But if you pick it for him, well, then he'll pick something else like Gallery. But that's probably why.
Well, in that case, Slappy's probably pretty happy with how the picks and bans turned out. Let's see if he can make the most of it, starting on Panop. On the spy side, Cameraman on the sniper.
Starting this in 3, 2, 1, go.
Are all Slappy-friendly maps, and they're mostly Cameraman-friendly maps, too. Like I mentioned before, Slappy, Cameraman, and I all have fairly similar tastes in the kind of maps we like and dislike, with just a couple noteworthy exceptions that we've talked about before. So in this case, I think both spies and snipers are going to feel pretty comfortable most of the games. It's just going to come down to play.
So the big thing about Panopticon here is that the sniper can only actually see a third of the map at any given time, as Slappy starts things off with a green test flirt at the blue bookcase for 51%. So the spy has a lot more leeway than he'd have on any other map.
Yeah, there are a couple things to note. First of all, as you mentioned, only 1/3 of the map at any time, but that's compensated for by the fact that the camera can whip around very quickly. The camera operated by one cameraman, as he's called right now, and it only takes rim shot. It only takes a fraction of a second to go back and forth. The spy, therefore, can actually try to take a guess as to whether or not they're being watched. There is some laser latency, so they can't tell with absolute certainty where the laser is. So sometimes they think they're not being watched, and they are. But very often you can get away with very obvious things. That's why we said it's a fun map to cast. You're going to get crazy crash bugs, and because it's 5 of 8, you're going to get some hardtails.
Slow start from Slappy, going in for his second flirt, but with only 1:35 left on the clock and only that one flirt done.
But if he hits it,
although he is able to get the 2 flirt with the green, so that's nice.
If he doesn't hit that flirt, it's actually a pretty big problem with how much time has been used up already. But the fact that he's hit it, 2.5 minutes and the slowest mission done, not too bad, not too bad. But you got to keep moving. He's used up most of his idling time already, even with 2 greens. Normally, when you get a flirt on just 2 flirts, you have a little extra time to spare as a result. Not this time.
Not able to get that difficult fingerprint off of the yellow book either, but might be able to slip away. No, just decides to put it back where he found it. This is surprisingly slow for Slappy.
Yeah, it absolutely is. He's not the kind of guy to time out or try to frame too much, but I will say that if you are someone like Cameraman who highlights for statues on this kind of setup like this, you're probably going to have a lot of suspects on pan-op. And there's going to be somebody who's going to give you a reason to shoot. You cannot have a hair trigger on pan-op at the end of the game. Because it's not one of those games where, hey, look, the AI happened to do 3 or 4 suspicious things. What choice did I have? You get that sometimes with the Softail variants where you feel like you have no choice but to shoot. In pan-op, someone's going to look like they could be done every game.
I think that it might have been a full 5 lowlights from that banana bread. That was a rough one from SlappyDavis, but he just had to fire it off. Doesn't have enough time.
No, he's going to have to add time or try really hard to frame someone. And at this point, I just don't think he's been paying enough attention to who he can frame. Just based on the camera movement, it doesn't seem like he's trying to do that. It seems like the idling has been a little unintentional. And yeah, there's the time ad.
Back up to 1 minute and 40 seconds.
That's still not a lot. After a time ad, you'd like to have a lot more than that.
Especially when you still have 3 missions to do.
Not sure what he wants to do here. It's like he's waiting for the party to open up a little bit more, and it's just not happening. He keeps stopping and looking. And I think he might be planning a purloin here, because why else would he be in this conversation?
Yeah, he is hiding really hard right now. Little bit visible, especially now that the front of the convo is opened up a little bit, but the green test purloin does come off.
Well, I guessed right at least. There's no other reason to be in that conversation other than the green purloin, and it comes off.
Still has not happened. Center statues. There's the purloin coming off. And there's the shot for it. Cameraman on that like a hawk.
So what I'm really, he did seem to see the reject. What I'm really curious about, maybe Cameraman can tell us real quick, because he was at center statues with less than a minute left, it's entirely possible that was reason enough to shoot, or was reason enough to shoot even if he wasn't positive about the purloin, or maybe he was positive about the purloin.
I wasn't positive about the purloin at all, but I felt behind that whole game. I thought he had done a lot more than he had. And so when I saw Purple Dress go from the purloin conversation circle to middle statues, that was just not something I could ignore.
See, that's what's really interesting here. What happens if Slappy isn't going to center statues then? Center statues with less than a minute left on pan-op can be a reason to shoot anyway, especially if you think you're behind and you're just trying to figure out, what would the spy do? Not knowing anything about their game, not having any good suspects. What would the spy do? Would they go to center statues late? That can sometimes be like the white BB on balcony, right? Shoot just for that, and you're going to be right a surprising amount of the time. And in this case, what would have happened, because he wasn't sure about the purloin, what would have happened if he'd done something else? We'll never know.
We will never know, but we will know what happens when Cameraman steps into the spy shoes. Slappy on the sniper here on pan-op.
Starting this in 3, 2, 1, and go.
So yeah, if you're Cameraman, you feel pretty good about that. Like he said, thought he was behind, but managed to pull out the win at the end. Those can be very nice. And in a match this short, just a 5 or even 4 for the overtime. One win that you weren't planning on winning there, huge deal.
Super early time ad coming out of Cameraman into the first flirt. That's a nice little start, giving you a little bit more breathing room.
Yeah, and get away with it a lot. Got the heck out of windows pretty quick. Some snipers will be very suspicious of you just for leaving windows that fast, but there's a lot going on, so you can get away with it very often.
You can get away with a lot on this map.
Yeah. If I ever had to commit a crime of some kind, I'd want to do it on Panopticon. Which is a very ironic thing to say if you know the history of the word.
And Cameraman really taking his time that he gained from that time ad, idling a fair bit, making sure he's not doing anything suspicious. Might step back in for the flirt here, but no, just innocently stepping over to the blue bookcase.
Normally, I really like the idea of time adding just to use that for idling, but it's got to be on a map where you're going to benefit from idling. It's got to be on a ballroom or a courtyard where you're going to be seen not doing things. On pan-op, I feel like it's a lot less valuable, particularly in the first half of the game.
Ooh, that was a path. But does pick up a green test flirt out of it, up to 85% now. So one more flirt from anywhere will finish that up, and has a blue book in hand, which she can do whatever she wants with.
Yeah, I don't believe it's been marked either. Now, obviously, a lot of snipers can remember fairly well, especially because the book matches the dress in this case. Some people will use little mnemonics like that, and that'll be enough. Slappy, to my memory, does a pretty good job of tracking books, but he doesn't do it religiously. So we'll see when he approaches another bookshelf with that thing.
That is a very good point, and a very little considered one. If you're playing as Blue Dress, it is less in your favor to visit the blue bookcase if you can avoid it, just because it is very easy to remember that that's where you've come from. Even if you're not trying to do it consciously, it just happens as the flirt gets finished up here on the timer.
Now, interesting there, that was a no talk. I think nobody was talking in that conversation for a little while there leading up to the flirt, but it's pan-op, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it does not. Banana bread coming off on the white test. 1 low light, 2 low lights, 3 low lights. I think that's all he's going to get.
Oh, and not just that, but one of the lowlights is Blue Danger at center statue, and you hate to give away a center statue highlight from an AI like that on pan-op.
Microfilm comes off. Red test purloin, though.
Oh,
this
no.
could be terrible. The blinking is right in his face, and the shot comes off.
Wow. So what's really rough about that is
brutal.
I think Cameraman was ahead before that. He's done with the
too.
seduce. The microfilm doesn't seem to have aroused any suspicion. The BB was done. He had 2 minutes left. One of them was inspect. So big deal there. But just couldn't resist the siren song of that purloin. I don't know if it would have mattered. I think he might have gotten away with a green. I think a white would have killed him too.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's just I understand it because it's so hard to resist purloin when it's right in front of you like that. And at that point, everything had gone pretty well for him. So you're sort of feeling like a rush, right? Things are snowballing and you just want to keep going. But I think given how well the rest of the game had gone, probably not the best decision.
Especially, it's so hard to resist when it's given to you at an unusual location like a bookcase, because usually the snipers won't be looking for it in those weird locations. Unfortunately, not only was it a red test, but Slappy was looking.
Yeah, and here's the thing also, even if you're getting away with the microfilm, there are a lot of scenarios where if you're not tracking books on pan-op, you still have a vague sense, so maybe you don't know that book is blue, but you just sort of remember seeing them at the other shelf, and so you're already wondering. It gives the sniper more reason to stare at them while they're at that shelf, take note of the fact that they were at that shelf, so they're just a little bit more likely to be watching you if you're at the second shelf with that book rather than the first, so it's a slightly worse time to do something like a purloin. But look, I get it. It shows up. It's right in front of you. It's a free mission. Everything else is going so well. It's very tempting.
Either way, we are stepping into Courtyard 2. Any 4 of 7 next. It's going to be Slappy starting things off on the spy side and Cameraman on the sniper.
Starting this in 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, I really think Cameraman was probably going to win that game otherwise. But, that's how it goes sometimes. If it had worked, we'd all be talking about how genius it was. Ooh, rough path.
Rough path, but a little in and out at the statue. I think it was highlight because stayed there longer than most AI will.
Could be. I think there was a little twitch there, too. I don't know how visible that was to the sniper. It's easy to see that and not be sure you saw it. Let's put it that way. But if you're Slappy, even though that didn't go so well, what you're noticing, hopefully, is that 2 other people were already at statues. Early highlights like that, really good on CY2.
Absolutely. And because as a spy, you're not expecting a highlight like that, Slappy probably doesn't think he has that much suspicion on him right now.
Right, he's thinking, I didn't actually pick up the statue, so I'm probably not even highlight yet. So if he tries to do his hardtail beforehand, thinking he's not highlight, he might be in for a rude awakening.
Nice close flirt there. 68% coming out of his second one with 2 minutes left to play. Pretty fast on the flirt coming in.
Yeah. Ooh, Purloin all alone. Big risk, but he hits the green.
Very, very bold. And Toby is going to be moving a fair bit. Unfortunately, it's Arrow Lady who takes the list.
Yeah, not only a cast member who can't have done it, but the very next person it's offered to. That's pretty rough, but I think he might have gotten away with it here.
I don't think Cameraman remembers where that came from. It's time to pick up some lowlights of people who couldn't have done it.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
He only gets 1, I think.
It's one thing not to catch the Purloin, which is bad enough, but you really need to at least narrow it down at this point.
Well, it certainly seems like Cameraman's suspicious of Slappy.
Could be. That really does look like incidental laser movement to me, though, or at least it could be. I know countless times I felt like they're laser birding me. They know, oh God, they know. I'm not long for this world. And meanwhile, they were just looking at something else, and they just happened to leave the laser there. I like this from Slappy here, by the way. He's a little worried about that purloin, so he's trying to play it cool, and he's playing it cool, equidistant from two other people in a conversation with just the Amba and an AI. That's laying low already. Ow! Just as the watch check goes off, just as the time ad, White Danger is shot anyway. So Slappy makes the right judgment, which is, okay, I got away with the purloin, and I think he's going to shoot even if I don't finish, maybe. It looks like he was just starting to second-guess that strategy by adding time, but it happened just in time, so he didn't actually get caught for it.
If you sound a BB and show a hardtail, your opponent basically is forced to shoot someone.
It's pretty hard not to. Exactly. It has to be a hardtail that you can see. It has to be a swap where you can see the statues change, or it has to be obviously a purloin where there's no guest list, because you can't know if you've missed the bug. And I got to say, even out of those two, purloin better, because with swap, you'll sometimes doubt that you memorize properly. Purloin is literally the only hardtail mission that leaves that lasting proof that you can be positive it has taken place.
Unless the return.
Unless you return, but what kind of crazy person would do that? Cough, cough, Veery.
Especially on Courtyard 2. It was a very bold play taking the purloin there, but it worked out for the best. Let's see what happens in the next one as Cameraman steps into the spy side of Courtyard 2.
Starting this in 3, 2, 1, go.
I really think with that time ad, that was Slappy thinking, oh crap, I guess he's not going to shoot. The BB's done, the purloin's done, he hasn't shot yet, so I'm going to have to do something. And maybe if Cameraman waits a couple more seconds, maybe notices the time ad. I don't know, but pretty hard not to shoot at that point. Sometimes the strategy will literally just be, I'm going to do a hardtail and a BB and make him shoot.
Oh, super early green test purloin. Wrote highlight for the statue visit. I think this is going to come off clean.
Yeah, and I think it might have been a window.
Here, I didn't look like Slappy was paying too much attention. Does get a bum highlight from it.
And here's the thing. When he rotated around and saw the list gone, the person standing closest to it, yellow jacket, holding a drink.
Yeah.
Already. So he is a huge suspect at this point. Now, I got to give Slappy a lot of credit. Cameraman's still highlight. He is not one of the lowlights. The lowlights are good.
Ladies and gentlemen, while all that was happening, mission win pending is on the board.
As we were talking about the purloin, he went off and green swapped and inspected, and he's quickly BB'd. The swap has just gone off, and I just don't see any way Slappy can shoot here.
5 seconds. 4 seconds. I don't think he's going to take it. What a game from Cameraman.
So when we talked earlier about, why would he go for the purloin on Panop, right? And I said, well, he'd just done a few missions and they'd gone very well. He'd gotten away with the microfilm. This is what I'm talking about. Sometimes when things go like that, they just start to snowball. You're hitting all your green tests, everything's lining up, and you just keep going. And while the sniper is reacting to one thing, another thing comes and they never catch up. So while that looked like a very poor decision before, and these look like good decisions, there's actually very little difference between them sometimes. Sometimes you're just trying to ride that wave, and it makes you look brilliant when it works, and it looks inexplicable when it doesn't, but you see the flip side of that coin in this game.
That weird little path at the end, I thought Slappy was going to shoot me for sure for that statue, so I tried to do a dance. Just like at the last second.
You gotta dance against Slappy.
Trying to outdance the dance man. All right, next up, Slappy on the spy once again. This time we're heading into one of the larger maps. It's going to be Veranda on any 5 of 8.
All right, we're going to be starting this in 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, so we are all knotted up now, 2-2, and some of these games really close.
Oh yeah, this is by far one of the tightest sets I've seen.
Now, the rush worked out last time. I think Cameraman, I don't know if he needed to. I really think that Slappy was looking at Yellow Jacket there. It just lined up really well. He had the drink. I think at that point, if Yellow Jacket does pretty much anything, I think he's getting shot.
Flirt comes off, 34%, just barely out of range for the bug, but I think Cameraman's suspicious of it.
Range, you can't tell from that angle, and I think it might just be a highlight for a possible bug. He might have realized, my attention was occupied by the statues there for a second, and when I looked over, he was next to the Amba, so maybe I missed something. Probably didn't see anything, but just realized he hadn't been watching the Amba for a few seconds there.
Other than that, it's a pretty slow start. Still just those 34% on the flirt. Looks like he's going in for a second one here. 3 minutes left to play. So certainly not behind the curve yet. But, ooh, red test. That's rough.
Yeah, and Veranda actually not the kind of map where you can just reel off a bunch of missions in a row. You really can't afford to idle that much. I've had so many games where I've thought, wow, I'm really making decent progress, and then I look up and I need 2 or 3 more missions with a minute left. The time just really fritters away when you have to do 5 missions on a map this size.
And SlappyDavis knows it as he checks his watch to put a little bit more of that time on the clock, stepping into his first statue to get one inspect and set it down again.
Yeah, and this is rough. Goes to statues for the first time, already has a highlight beforehand, and he's going to have to go again. That's not a great position to be in before you even get into the lack of time.
Although it was quick enough that it looks like he may not have been caught there.
Yeah, maybe not. There was the Helen character, the elderly woman, was there next to him, and I just didn't see Cameraman definitely take notice of it. He may or may not have seen it, but it wasn't obvious that he did. Oh, wow. And speaking of which, that elderly character goes for a second statue visit and gets low-lit for it. So Cameraman, with some highlights and lowlights, based on what he thinks someone would do. They're not following a strict rule here, I don't think.
Indeed. Banana bread comes off. One low light. And a couple of neutral lights for people who are unlikely to have, people who weren't in conversation with Double Agent.
Yeah, now it would have been another one, except that he just low-lit the elderly woman for going to statues again, as I mentioned. So pretty good BB, but particularly given that one of the people out was already low-lit.
Indeed.
You can't really control that as Spy very well, but it's a really nice thing when it happens. Sometimes you'll BB, there are a couple people out of conversation, and they're both already low-lit, and it doesn't cost you a thing.
Neutralizing the highlights who weren't in conversation with double agents is very wise, though, from Cameraman, I think. Not going all in on it being real, but...
Yep. Not assuming it's real, but correctly predicting that it probably is, because it usually is, particularly at higher levels. So he's kind of hedging his bets there. I like it, and he's kept his suspect list very manageable. Look at this, only 3 highlights now, 4. Okay, never mind. A bunch of people went to statues just as I started that sentence.
White test Purloin, I don't think it was seen. General takes one, and now he's going to get a look at the list.
Yeah, and here's the problem. Here's the problem, though. Slappy is right next to where it happened when it happened. And holding a drink still, has not gulped the drink and did not bail on it. So it's entirely possible that even though he quote-unquote got away with it, ended up being a suspect anyway, but it's still not clear whether or not Cameraman's seen it. We haven't seen a clear zoom in on the list.
This is very true, although with only 50 seconds left...
Oh, the blonde character is obliging. He goes near the AMBA, gets zoomed in on to guard against possible bug on a briefcase return, and then immediately goes to statues after. That's a possible fingerprint. It's another statue visit. He was suspicious of the bug. The blonde character looking very suspicious from Cameraman's perspective right now.
Slappy, I don't think, is going to finish missions. Almost has to bank at this point on Cameraman taking a bad shot. We'll see. And the shot does come off. Exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, when I was talking about how there were very few highlights, he highlighted 3 people in very quick succession after that. One of them was the blonde character who went to back statues, and then about 30 seconds later, he brings the briefcase back to the AMBA. Cameraman starts watching very closely to see if there's a bug, but he goes from a statue to a possible fingerprint to a second statue all late in the game, and that's hard to get away from. And it's very interesting, though. Cameraman, when I started that sentence of saying you only had 1 highlight, I think it might have actually been 2 at the time. I think Sari was also highlight. He was in excellent shape. Slappy had done very little. There were 1 or 2 highlights. There were a few lowlights. He was in control of the party, and it went downhill from there, unfortunately. But at that point in the game, if you just took a screenshot right there, what are the odds Cameraman wins? I would have said 80%.
Sometimes the AI just decides to throw you a bone.
Yeah.
And Slappy certainly took it that time around. Let's see what he can do on the sniper side. Cameraman on the sniper.
Starting this in 3, 2, 1, go.
Perfect balances between trying to accomplish missions versus being willing to frame, but I will say that I think the top players actually lean a little too far towards accomplishing missions. And I think you see tonight that Slappy is getting a lot of mileage out of going the other way, out of waiting until late in the game, making him shoot someone else instead. It's worked for him twice now, I believe.
Instant white swap off the top from Cameraman as he steps into red bookcase.
Yeah, and I like it. It might be a little impulsive, but I think it's a solid decision, especially on this map. It's so hard to memorize. Slappy does have a little mnemonic he taught me about for it, but it's pretty hard to do on new art that quickly. And I don't see enough. I didn't see enough rotation to suggest that he actually did memorize. And meanwhile, Cameraman with the red to green hard microtransfer.
Not only was there no rotation to see that he memorized, but there was no reaction from it. We now have 3 missions done and 2 inspects.
Yeah, totally clean there.
So fast.
Well, since he knows that I saw that just now, I guess I can admit that when we played last year, I sat on that red to green microfilm transfer pretty much every time we played Veranda. It's something he does like to do.
Oh, I don't doubt it. But I didn't play. I hadn't played Slappy last season, so I figured that he wouldn't know about that little thing.
I didn't want to say anything because we still have to play each other at least one more time this year, but I figured since I'm casting and you know I've seen it, maybe it doesn't matter.
Don't worry, I'll probably still just do it.
You might get away with it too. You might get away with it. It's a little easier on new art, but it is one thing I noticed doing my research. He is fond of it, and why shouldn't he be? It works pretty well most of the time, and it worked beautifully there.
Cameraman can't get into the convo. He's just standing there. It's super awkward. All right, he's out. Everything's fine.
Tell new players, if you miss a pad, just play it cool, man. And especially with little conversation circles on big, busy maps like this, wasn't seen at all, and it wasn't really even in danger of being seen. So he handled that perfectly well. That is the essence of being a spy, playing it cool when something goes wrong.
Now stepping in for his first flirt of the night, of the game, sorry. 34%. And a low light. Could this be going any better for Cameraman?
The only thing you got to worry about is he knows he has to go to statues again, and he might be a little worried about that. The second statue visit is what gets you shot a lot on this map. So it's entirely possible he's having second thoughts. He's thinking, as long as I can get this flirt done quick enough, maybe I can avoid a second statue visit. Let's see what he does. No, he's just going to finish it off anyway, and it turns out with the low light, there's no risk whatsoever.
Takes that second statue visit sooner rather than later. The last thing you want to do is have to do it while the timer is ticking down.
Some people will shoot for just that, yeah.
Getting it done before a minute left is key.
But he needs to move.
Even if it didn't wind up mattering.
He doesn't have enough time for a timer flirt, really, so that's...
Oh, hello, Ambassador. How are you? Oh, never mind. Shot comes off.
Now, he was in very good position there, but without the low light, if you take the low light out of it and just go, imagine yourself in his position, he's not feeling incredible there because he needs 2 more flirts and he's got a minute left, and you're really in danger of chasing your ST around, particularly if they're not cooperative. So he probably didn't realize what a good position he was in with that low light.
I agree, but honestly, I think he takes that bug. Like, he's in convo first, Amba sidles up to him. There's someone in between blocking the angle. It's so perfect.
Yeah, probably fine either way, but it turns out not to matter. Slappy does shoot, and Slappy's instinct's pretty good there because Cameraman was getting close to finishing. It wasn't a totally unnecessary shot.
Absolutely. And now we get to watch Gallery. It's going to be SlappyDavis on the spy and Cameraman on the sniper. Any 4 of 8.
Starting this in 3, 2, 1, go.
And we are tied at 3. This map is deceptively large. The sniper can see basically everything at any given time, but because of the depth, so many things that are on camera are rarely actually being looked at.
Yeah, and I'm not really an art aficionado, but the art on the wall's a little simplistic for my tastes. My wife is the art history major, so maybe she'd see something in them that I wouldn't.
Or at least once this place gets hit with the pretty stick. Although, personally, I'm hoping that Courtyard is the next on the list.
Yeah, this should make a very pretty map when all's said and done.
I'm hoping for Pan-Op next.
Choice 2. So Green Flirt, but doesn't happen that early in the game. So some of the advantage of that 51% a little mitigated with only 2.5 minutes left.
Although that said, flirts are not the easiest to come by on this map. So if you can get that done in 2, that's going to be a bit of a weight off Slappy's shoulders.
Absolutely right. Yeah, I will say the green flirts matter more. Maybe not as much as in a place like Balcony, but certainly more than in a place like CY2 or Ballroom.
Slappy stepping into blue bookcase in full view. No cover at all.
Yeah, one of the reasons I think the flirts are so hard, not just the distance, because as you say, it is deceptively large, but when someone leaves one conversation circle, you actually have no idea where they're going. They could be going to 5 other places, whereas in a lot of other maps, you can kind of work out where they're likely to go based on their trajectory, because they're usually only 2 or 3 places. In this case, if they leave the conversation and you start following them, you have no idea where they're going to lead you.
No mission completions yet, but with half a flirt done and a fingerprint gotten off the blue book.
Oh,
Ooh,
love that from Slappy.
that was a thing of beauty. That's a
Stop.
little thing AI will very rarely do, and it's almost never emulated by a spy, especially not to that accuracy.
And
Can
you don't want
can
to
I just
emulate
chime
it.
in here real fast? If it's very lucky for me that I didn't see that because I would have low lit for that.
Yes, yeah. It's a good thing. It used to be when I started playing, if you ever stopped dead like that, you were automatically the spy. But at a certain point, certain things got updated, and the AI will occasionally approach a conversation, realize it's full, stop dead for a second, and leave. It's a risky thing to do, but I will say that this is the kind of place you want to do it. You want to do it in gold or higher when you have a sniper, when you have sniper quality that's going to low light for it with some regularity.
I do not agree with this positioning in conversation. Banana bread comes off, but not in range for the 2 flirt.
Yeah, and that's a big one.
96!
Oh,
Oh, it hurts me. It hurts me, track.
Yeah, there's just no upside to that. You need to be close enough, and if you're not going to be, if you're going to try 2 flirt anyway, you might as well take the advantage of being on the other side. But he might be back there because it's a better angle to purloin from. And there it is, yeah.
Indeed, purloin does come off, but with 35 seconds left to play...
The list is not... Yeah, not visible, though. There's so much occlusion back there. I'm not sure Cameraman's seen that it's gone.
Okay, now he certainly has. We still need to find one more flirt and another mission on top of it. I don't think fingerprint is on the table at this point. What is Slappy gonna do? He might be going for a time ad. If he can hit a green and make it hang at 0.
Yep, he's gonna have to, and I think Cameraman is on at this game for whatever reason. He doesn't even seem to be thinking about
Here
shooting
it
with
is.
5 seconds
It's
left.
green! There's the hang! Does he know?
He must know it's either...
Know?
Yellow danger was at the windows with him. If he caught it at all, if he's not confused, and it's easy to get confused in the moment when that happens, he must have it down to 2 people, and it might be so obvious that he's not even bothering to highlight or low light.
He knows it's either Yellow Danger, SlappyDavis, or Banana Man because of a possible green swap.
Yeah, that's true.
And here he comes. This is the statue Banana Man was at.
Oh my god, and he must not think so because look, Slappy went over and finished his flirt and didn't get shot. So I'm not sure how on to him Cameraman is, but Slappy's running low on time again with 1 mission left. He needs a fingerprint or something else. Looks like he's gonna go for a bug. He does. Oh, Spy ran out of time. Oh my goodness.
Oh man. That was tight. Just barely that bug not coming off. That is brutal. Wow.
Figure out if there's something actually wrong here with my clock almost. That looks bizarre the way that happened right there on the timer end. Good grief.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, what happened there? Because it's 25, 24, 23, 0. Yep. What?
Yeah, did you guys notice this while you were playing?
No, absolutely not. I think it was I think you got the full 40 seconds. I think it's some weird spectator bug. That's why I'm seeing it.
Oh, yeah, it's because
because
the spy timer is moving at green test speed.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you have a weird
replays.
Yeah, it's a problem with replays. That's right. Okay, I was gonna say that didn't seem quite right. So we actually have a bug in the replay, but not the game. But that makes a little more sense. Okay.
All right. Good to know.
Good to know.
All right. So with that, this could very well be the last game of the set. We have Cameraman on the spy fighting for a win. Slappy on the sniper.
Before we
fighting
start,
for overtime.
Don't mind. I would love to ask Cameraman real quick because from our perspective, that was very strange. We saw a lot of things that looked like maybe Cameraman had it narrowed down to 1 or 2 people, but the sniper behavior after that didn't seem to suggest that at all. He didn't highlight or low light. Okay, maybe he just knows who it is. But then Slappy goes and finishes the mission. He's bugging near the end, and Cameraman just acted like he knew for sure he wasn't going to finish the whole time. What was going through your mind there? Did you just miss the purloin completely, or what?
I saw the purloin, but I had no idea. I had no suspects really. And so I knew that in previous games, Slappy had erred really, really harsh on the side of just not finishing missions to the point of being willing to time out. So this game I decided I'm just going to call him on the bluff.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you simultaneously made the right and the wrong choice. Obviously, it worked out because he didn't quite finish, but he came very deathly close to finishing too. That makes a lot more sense because you can't really describe a spectation posture, but you seemed casual. You seemed very relaxed on the sniper side. You weren't really moving around a lot. And yeah, you seemed exactly like that. You seemed like you were basically selling out on he's not going to finish. And that makes a lot of sense now that I hear it.
Once I saw the green time ad, I knew that I was right. And so from there on, I was waiting until overtime. I was just like I think, from what I remember, I was trying to keep a general, like, overtime list, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, there it is. He came certainly very close. And the thing that really threw me, though, is when he finished the flirt mission after the time ad and you didn't shoot. Because I think at that point, if you see him do a time ad and then go talk, you worry that maybe that's the last one.
But I didn't see him do the time ad. In fact, I thought the time ad had happened before, like, the 15-second mark.
Worked out.
All right, so let's get into this next one whenever you guys are ready.
All right, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
So it's a big win, obviously. It forces Slappy to try to win here just to force overtime. Cameraman in the driver's seat, but has to play Spy.
Oh, flirt and go for 51% into the red bookcase. What a nice little cheeky start from Cameraman.
Yeah, you really like to see that. I'd be really interested to see what he does with the book here. Is he actually planning on using it, or do you just want to flirt? He's going to take it with him.
He is indeed give himself some options.
Opportunity, I think, here?
Well, he has to wait for the flirt timer to finish running out.
Yeah, but still very nice. Right next to him. Wow.
And the 2 flirt as well. What an incredibly fast start out of Cameraman. This is wonderful.
Yeah, half a timer flirt, basically, and at 2:53, he's already seduced his target.
And that's even bigger on this map than it is on most.
Oh, gets the lowlight for putting the book back in the correct shelf, I believe. Maybe.
That's what it looks like to me. Nope, just goes back up again.
Well, that was weird. That was a few seconds in between, so it doesn't look like it was just a misclick.
Yeah.
A better of it.
2 minutes and 13 left to play.
And obviously going to use a little of that time he saved now.
Yeah. Cameraman had a very fast start, but is playing slow after that. 3 missions left to do and no progress.
Yeah, he's pretty much already given away a lot of his advantage there. And that's okay. There's some value to that. As we know, we might have almost gotten Lola there for a second.
Heading out, looks like towards the outside conversation. Might try to get this fingerprint off of the statue, I think. I think that's the plan, is fingerprint the statue.
Let's see here. Well, you had fingerprint right, but it was the briefcase.
Briefcase, and then back to statue? Possibly. Did get highlight for taking the briefcase, though.
Now, I can't remember when that was last tweaked, the probability of taking drinks outside. It's not that AI won't do it, it's just that they don't like to. Now, he did it with a briefcase, so I don't know if that's more or less conspicuous. You don't see that very often.
And now stepping back in for that second fingerprint.
Wow. You can get 1 fingerprint on a non-briefcase. That's nice. And this one, he lucked out. Nobody went to the statue in between, even though it's been a fair while.
Bit bold, though, especially because, well, he doesn't know he got highlight for the briefcase.
Doesn't inspect. Doesn't even try.
That's a weird decision. Usually you at least get the inspects to give yourself the options later on.
Green purloin at windows.
Purloin at painting.
And, windows, I say. Yeah, big colored windows. But I got to say, not particularly advisable because the ambo was right next to him. So that he knew for a fact the sniper had a reason to be staring at him when it happened.
That is true, but now the BB comes off and actually the shot happens as well.
Didn't even see the purloin.
Didn't even have to. Ladies and gentlemen, it's overtime.
It's overtime again. Sure, why not? Let's do it again. Great shot. Really impressive that he didn't even need the purloin to shoot for it. Slappy all over that. I think, I don't know if he suspected the purloin at all, but I think he might have been in trouble anyway because, again, he's already watching the AMBA. He's watching right there. You really want to do those two things far away from one another. You want to purloin away from the AMBA whenever you can. But in this case, it just didn't matter. I think he was probably tracking that fingerprint pretty well. Also possible that he was very suspicious of the drink outside.
Cameraman's map pick, surprise, surprise. It's Courtyard 1. Any 4 or 6.
Let's just get this over with.
Slappy decides to snipe. Might have been a little bit of a decision. We're at 4 of 7, but with 4 of 6, I think sniping is very much the right call. Let's see what happens.
His exact words were, "Against my better judgment, I'll snipe."
Let's see what happens here in 3, 2, 1. Wait, you're doing the
It's fine. I'll start again.
I apologize.
No, it's fine. All right, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Old habits die hard, Tobo.
They do indeed. Cameraman. Interesting first path. Really wanted that statue, then the AMBA stole it from under his nose.
Yeah, hey kids, do you want all the downsides of being suspected for a bug without the actual bug? Try that.
But I took bug off.
Yeah, I did. That's right. Oh goodness, I forgot he had to take a mission off. Well, in that case, you have nothing but upside in just hanging around the AMBA all day.
Banana bread comes off to start the proceedings. We do have, I think, just the one low light, actually.
Yeah, just the one low light. By the way, very interesting to take bug off. There are so few game modes where someone would even consider taking it off. I'm not even sure if this is normally one of them, but there you go.
One of the upsides is you are less likely to be watching the ambassador for things like what he's putting his fingerprints on.
That's true.
Cameraman picks up a green purloin in convo and runs the hell away.
And Slappy was on the other side, and the reject was not visible. The only way he could have figured out that he'd rejected is to see the aftermath of the reject. You know, the end of the trade coming up. He did not see the actual reject.
Off. Toby moving around a whole lot. This is a very good situation for Cameraman to be in. Picking up a fingerprint on the briefcase as well.
It's entirely possible he remembered Cameraman was there, sort of figured it out, you know, based on who was there beforehand, but I don't think so. I think he got away with this purloin pretty much clean, and maybe he doesn't realize that, but I think he probably needs to do absolutely nothing now, and Slappy's still going to shoot at some point, unless he gets some bad luck and literally, like, nobody goes to statues from here on out.
31% on the flirt and a time ad. Although 31% is exactly the number you do not want to see, because now you have to get a green test.
Now, it gets low lit. Now, what's interesting is, I don't know if he even needs that. The AMBA has put the briefcase down. When that AMBA moves, I wonder if Cameraman's sitting there waiting for her to leave so that he can go finish off that fingerprint.
I think grabbing another innocent drink is a very wise idea from Cameraman, because what spy is going to do that?
Now, I'm looking at Cameraman's own camera here, and he had the briefcase in his frame the whole time, but when it was left, he didn't actually do anything about it, and Purple Dress beats him to it.
1 minute and 5 left to play.
Gets the green.
Gets the green indeed. 78% on the flirt. That could save his game depending on how the rest of this goes.
Well, it's going pretty well. The ST left right afterwards, so he can walk right on over there, finish that up, but he needs to either go...
No, you not take that. We win the race. Bye. Thank you for that, Blue Danger.
He needs that because look at the alternatives. Either a late swap, which is a good way to get shot with a low light, by the way, it's a late swap. Or 2 statue visits, which are just not feasible. So now that fingerprint is going to win him the game.
Low lit with the
flirt.
Indeed.
There we go. And Slappy said, against my better judgment, and he was right. But only because he missed that purloin, I think, completely. That was the game.
Yeah. I think if he gets an eye on that purloin, that goes the other way every single time.
Yeah, and by gets an eye on, you mean even just suspects it, has him as one of 3 or 4 possible people. Maybe even if there's a reject chain, at that point you narrow it down and you're noticing the fingerprint a lot better. And you're definitely not low lighting him. But that was just a 100% clean Purloin. Slappy on the other side completely.
And
keep rotating.
oh man, our last game of the set is gonna be Balcony.
Yeah, I believe Cameraman
3.
earlier in the match. Let me see here. No, it was not. Sorry, he banned Double Modern Known 2, but a very Balcony-like map. So maybe at this point, Slappy's saying, I don't think Slappy has any particular affinity for Balcony, but he knows that Cameraman banned Double Modern Known 2. He knows that he banned High Rise 3.5, and he might just be playing against type there. He might just be saying, I don't think you like Softel maps, so I'm going to put it on the line here.
I actually, I love Balcony.
Do you?
Yes.
You should pick it more often then.
Usually I let other people pick it for me.
Well, yeah, if that works too, yeah.
Another big thing is that this map has a tendency to be a little bit coin flippy. And as is the way of those who like Balcony, Cameraman picks the sniper side.
And Cameraman, to be fair, he did pick Balcony fairly often last year, but he has not picked it yet this year. So maybe Slappy thinks he's getting a good deal. Maybe he thinks he's making him uncomfortable, and he really isn't.
Let's see what happens.
Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
He likes Balcony and Courtyard? Oh, God.
Yeah, I have the best taste in SpyParty.
What kind of person are you? Oh, okay. All right. Well, thankfully, I can ban it next time we play.
But you can't ban both Courtyard and Balcony.
No, I'll just have to live with one of them.
Not the greatest position for the flirt.
And a white BB.
Tried to get a flirt there, but the ST bailed. That is brutal for Slappy.
One person out of conversation during a BB is brutal, but this is one of them. There's almost never a requirement for it. It's unfortunate, but Purple has been talking like crazy and is the only highlight. Slappy, however, talking white BB, pretty rough, but I don't know. You don't know if the highlight reflects suspicion, but if it does, he might not be in a whole lot of trouble.
I am sure Blue Danger could have gotten low lit off that fake.
I think so, but you want to be careful too, so deciding to play it safe.
No flirts yet. I think Slappy is going to have to find a way to set up for a bug.
I think that's the plan. Yeah, I think he's worried about it because of, with the white BB at that point, you're thinking, I'm pretty suspicious. There's no way I can talk 2 or 3 times without getting shot.
Lots of cover now. Might be able to slip it in, but the Amba steps away. Although Slappy's positioning in here is good, the most likely entrance for the Amba is right next to him.
But that was a perfect spot because look where Cameraman camped out. Cameraman has hardly rotated at all, so that's where you would normally want the Amba, was where he was. He's in a decent spot now, but it's not as good as the last spot he was in.
Had a moment where it could have happened, but the shot comes off! Oh my God! And ladies and gentlemen, we have a draw!
Yeah, we've got a tie party. Obviously, Snap's active, talking a lot. And once again, though, that's the 3rd game Slappy wins by just sort of hanging back and not doing as much. Now, granted, I don't think he was trying to frame. I think he was planning to bug, like you say. But certainly playing it slow, not trying to go the traditional route, and sort of, I'm guessing, at least hoping for a shot instead. I think that wins him at least 3 of those 5 games, as it turns out.
Also, he was clearly attempting to go for the proper game, except when his ST bailed on him the second before he right-clicked and wound up on the fake BP. I feel like he felt like he had to sit back and let what would happen.
Well, that's the decision right then. Do you still try to go with what you're planning to do? Do you chase them? Do you try to force the issue? Or do you change on the fly? And if he changed his mind then that was ultimately the decision that won him the game and tied him the match.
How are we doing on time? Are we doing the last one?
I was thinking we might just skip this one in the interest of time, if that's all right with you two.
That is okay by me.
I know we went a little long on these ones, but there was a lot to say, certainly in 2 overtime matches, man. What are you going to do?
Yeah, these overtime matches are certainly something. A lot of excitement there.
All right.
So yeah, that brings this week's NA SpyParty cast to a close. I'd like to say thanks to our wonderful casters, to Boshi Warning Track. I'd also like to say thanks to RJ Wet for the wonderful overlay that I'm using, Kletos for this wonderful splash screen, Catnip and Wodar and GMAT Sang for helping out with cast managing, Crazy Kaylee for setting up the league. I think that's it.
All right. Thank you to everybody just mentioned and for everybody who came out to watch tonight.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, actually, I just got a request to give like a quick rundown of